Hey, can people hear me now? Can we put F in the chat if you're here? That was like the beginning of every Zoom meeting ever where someone's audio doesn't work and you're just like, I can't hear you, I can't hear you. Can people hear me now? We switched microphones. Oh, good. All right. Ashley has an F in the chat, at least. So that means at least one person has access to a keyboard and can hear me. So pretty much that must mean we're all set. How's everybody doing today on the 2000th day of quarantine, or whatever it feels like? Tomorrow is a holiday for a lot of people. I guess it's already a holiday. Oh, yay! Amanda says the music was nice too. Okay, that's good. All right. Wow, all the chats came through at once. Good. All right. That's great. Hi, Amanda. Hi, Kate. Hi, Ashley. Hi, Peepers Tea. I'm glad to see you all, at least in text format. I have a bigger monitor today, so I don't have to squint nearly as much to see everything. How are folks doing? Where are you in the world? I think I know where some of you are in the world. But yeah, what's going on? Hanging in there? Yeah. That's good. Yeah, that's kind of how I'm feeling too. Although I have 2 donuts right here, and I am the only person in the house who eats sugar, so the very terrible task of eating all of these donuts will now befall me. Fun fact, these donuts were technically, well, depends on how technical you get. They were free to me because my donut shop that I normally get donuts from in my neighborhood has gone like delivery or pickup only, so that they can like lessen the amount of contact. And that means they're on DoorDash, and I have this bizarre DoorDash thing where I get $60 of free DoorDash a year via my credit card, which the reason I say it's not technically free is because my credit card charges me an annual fee. Although the benefits make the annual fee, I think, as like high as I think I get as much in benefits each year from that card as I do pay in the annual fee. Kate is in the Midwest. Ashley says, ooh, what a fate. I'm assuming that refers to the fact that I have to eat these donuts. Yes, so let me introduce you to the donuts before we start talking about economics, because the donuts are far less depressing than economics right now. This is a vegan raspberry fritter, and it is like massive. We may be able to get an adjustment on the camera so that you can like see how delicious it is. Yeah, it is a good, very good looking donut. And it has real raspberries, like local raspberries, and in the bottom you can see like all the raspberries in there. And then this one has like lemon candies on the top, and it is it's an Arnold Palmer donut, so it has black tea on the inside, and then it has these lemon candies on it, and I'm very excited about it. I'm excited about both of those, but it's that is an entire plate of donuts, which is maybe not like good for me. That fritter is almost as big as my face. So Denise says they're eating a salad, but it's not looking as fun now. Yeah, I mean, fair. I'm sorry to bring you're like, you'll probably feel better inside after you eat the salad, so you can hold to that. I've never had the Arnold Palmer donut. I haven't had either of these. I usually try to get donuts for the live stream that I haven't had before. This donut place has a ton of seasonal flavors, so if you don't get them, they might never have them again. So yeah. Oh, Denise says cat scratch at OMT. That's great. It's always nice to see people's real names with their forum names. I will say I often do not associate people's names together at all in any way. Fritter has fruit. It's healthy. Yes, Amanda is correct. Fritter has fruit, therefore it is healthy. It's just like a salad. Pretty much it's just a salad. It just happens to be deep fried with a bunch of flour. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. Actually, the donut shop, I often, prior to quarantine, where getting things becomes this complicated dance, I previously would run down and get donuts right before the live stream. And I'm really glad I didn't do that today, because apparently they sold out of donuts at 150 right before we started, which I saw on their Instagram when I tagged them. So anyway, welcome everyone. How are people's finances feeling this week? Now that we've established that donut is pretty much the same as a salad because it has fruit, and that I am very excited about the donuts. How are we feeling in the world? It's a little chaotic this week. If you pay attention to the stock market, which I think I've given the advice since this really quarantine, COVID-19 market effects took place, I said, don't follow the stock markets because they're very stressful and they don't impact your daily life that much. So I really encourage you to not look at the stock markets, but if you were following them this week, they were very confusing. They actually had the highest 1 week increase this week than anything that has happened in the market since 1972. That being said, they also had the lowest week in previous weeks that they've had since the Great Depression. So yeah. Ashley says, my finances are solid this month, but who knows next month? Yeah, I mean, that is a... I think, oh, look at the Dow Jones. Isn't that very nice? You can see the cliff that it all fell off of. All right, get that depressing thing off the screen. You can't cover up the donuts with the Dow Jones. That's just really depressing. Yeah, Ashley, maybe you will get that $1,200 this month, and that will help get you to next month if you don't end up having to spend it. So, yeah. Denise says, I'm officially reduced to 90% hours now, so it's time to redo my budget. Yeah, furloughs are a big thing there. I think that I think right now is a really excellent time to embrace the creative aspects of budgeting, particularly if you're someone that's very stressed out by it. But like, I'm calmed by doing my budget even when I don't have a lot of money to work with. And I think that thinking about it in creative fashion, I think can make it a little more fun right now. And that could be like truly like artistically creative, or it could just be like, let's look at what it looks like to totally redefine the set points in my budget. Peeper says, okay through the rest of the month, but looking at very reduced hours as well next month, looking shaky. Yeah, well, we are officially in a depression now. So yeah, that is very scary. Ashley says, I keep checking my bank account for that federal government deposit. So they said that we should have them starting on Monday. If that's the first round is supposed to go out for ACH deposit next week. And that is based on people that filed either already for 2018 or 2019 taxes and had ACH information on file with the IRS, either because you got money taken in or put out of your bank account. So we'll see how that works out. Whew. I got like a fair amount of questions. These were not the audio questions that came in, which I also have a lot of, and we'll be getting up more episodes very soon. This weekend I should have at least one episode dropping with listener questions. But it should be, we have lots of other questions that came in, some of which came in from people in here. Kate says that she's been ignoring the market. My emergency fund is solid and I'm employed at least through the end of June, so feeling very stable and very fortunate. Yeah. Whew. Good, Kate. That is excellent. Is the additional funding for unemployment sustainable if this lasts longer than 6 months for now? That's an interesting question because it gets to the heart of whether or not... Oh, I'm blocked here. I'll move over here so that doesn't block me. Theoretically, yes, right? Like, we've done this before in the United States where the federal government has stepped in and helped support unemployment on the state markets. And the way unemployment insurance works is it's essentially a partnership between the federal government and the state governments in the United States. And generally it tends to do pretty well because it's pretty well at sustaining the way it is structured, which is that people only get a percentage of their wages replaced. And that comes out of the unemployment trust, which is it's maintained at the state levels. And essentially employers that have W-2 employees will pay in, most states, it's 2.4% of their payroll. On average, they'll pay 2.4% of their payroll into that trust. And then the unemployment will get paid out it's managed by the states. However, during times of economic crisis, states have to have a balanced budget, so to speak. They are mandated to have a balanced budget, which means that they can't overspend their income. Not every state's great at that. But you know what government's really bad at a balanced budget? The federal government. And the way it works when we have economic crises, there's only one part of the government that can actually create more money. And the part of the government that create more money is the Federal Reserve. They can actually print money. We still use the phrase printing money, but in reality, this is just numbers moving around. They don't actually go print any money anywhere. And The way it works flowing between the federal government and the states is when they do something like what the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Fund, which is this new extra $600 a week that everybody is getting, and also likely is going to contribute. There's still like, it's like there are a lot of lawyers and a lot of politicians can look at the bill and try to figure out how exactly that money is flowing for unemployment assistance, now that they've mandated a bunch more people can actually qualify for it. But I'm giving a long explanation, but essentially in the past, when the federal government has had to step in because they do have the ability to issue bonds in order to pay for this, and then the Federal Reserve has the ability to buy those bonds, then that's sort of sustainable as long as the U.S. economy's bonds remain valuable. And U.S. federal government bonds are currently one of the most competitive and valued assets in the world. And we know that because the interest rate is below 0.5%. So, which is crazy low, right? Like your federal student loans, you borrow at 6.7%, and you can't get out of those. Yet the U.S. government could theoretically default on their loans, but they never have before. And so we have a very good credit score with the world, which is our credit rating. And essentially, as long as we can keep finding ways to issue these bonds and there keeps being buyers for them that want to buy them at a low interest rate, because they feel very secure in it, then yes, this unemployment funding is sustainable. There's a different question for which I am not the expert to answer this, which is whether or not it's politically sustainable to keep extending unemployment. However, during the Great Recession, we extended unemployment benefits with the help of the Federal Trust and essentially the federal government buying bonds and then the Fed doing quantitative easing. We sustained that for up to some states. People were able to get unemployment for 89 weeks. So the average unemployment is 26 weeks in most states. That's like where you max it out. And it's usually you can get 26 weeks within a 2-year period. It does vary by state. It's regulated at the state level. But that extra 13 weeks that they tacked on, that's mostly paid for by the federal government. And they essentially can keep tacking that on. So right now it's at 39 weeks, and we've seen before when way less bad things and we had way lower unemployment. Like at the Great Recession, we had lower unemployment than, we still had half the unemployment rate that we currently think exists on the market. We're still not 100% sure what the unemployment rate is. It's actually really complicated to calculate, and it takes a while to happen. And one of those reasons is that unemployment is a mess right now and people can't file for it. But most estimates right now that economists are giving is that the unemployment rate now is between 13 and 15%. This is after we had a historical low of 2.4% unemployment right before this crisis hit. And so I think politically it is very sustainable that we can keep extending it. And I would not worry about, I wouldn't worry about the financial feasibility of unemployment. It's an expensive benefit, but it's not the most expensive thing the federal government spends money on. And it's a very obvious thing to spend money on. So, yeah. And I guess the other question I would say, or the other, I'm not a political science person. I'm an economist, which we often get mistaken for one another, but we are not the same. And I will say that what is happening right now in DC is that nobody is disagreeing with giving money to people through unemployment, through businesses, through any of it. The only thing they're disagreeing is how to get money to people. So we have all these people that identify as fiscal conservatives that are in elected office that normally would be like, oh, there's no way we should grow the deficit. We shouldn't issue more bonds. And nobody's saying that right now. They're literally just disagreeing with ways to deliver it. The Republicans actually tried to pass another, I don't know what that is outside. It sounds like a train is outside. It's like, that is a very resonant horn. So it's really just a matter of how we're going to deliver it. The Republicans actually tried to get more money out this week in another round of fiscal stimulus bill, and the Democrats blocked it. And so it wasn't blocked because Democrats don't love spending money, because Democrats love spending money. It was blocked, and helping people in small businesses, theoretically. It was blocked because they didn't agree with the administration of it. So that, that's one of the real questions. That is the most resonant horn I've ever heard. Okay. I don't know if you can hear that, or if our mics are good enough that you can't hear it on there. Yeah, does anybody have any other questions about the financial sustainability of this? I actually had a audio question come in that was about the existence of money, and why, if we have debt as a federal government, tax refunds are a thing. And I'm going to try to actually get that in an episode, but when it was they were asking more about the concept of money and fiscal policy, and I was sort of that's a more complicated question than can I get more unemployment right now? So, but I feel like it's kind of related to that question. Is now a good time to invest in a 529? I keep investing in my pension and Roth IRA. Theoretically, yes. Now is a good, if you feel confident about your income or your savings, one of the two. And I would say that if you don't have good cash available savings, and you feel confident about your income, I would still act as though every month you could lose your job the next month right now. And that's because there's just so much uncertainty in the economy right now that I would recommend making plans as though there is some uncertainty around your job, even if you generally feel like you have a pretty stable job. And that isn't to inspire fear in people. It's to say that I don't think that a lot of the things that are great long-term goals should be the focus of your priorities at the expense of cash savings and, having a cushion right now. That being said, if you are on financial track, you already have a savings fund, if you lost your job, you would be able to ride out a couple months, and you're still investing in your pension and your Roth IRA. If you do want to open a 529, so a 529 point of definition is a educational savings fund, and you can use it for yourself, for a dependent, and you can also transfer it to people. So you can start it for a dependent, and if they decide not to go to college, then you can transfer it to someone else. And most 529s are invested, and they'll be invested just the same as your Roth IRA or your 401k would be. Traditionally, they're in a set of mutual funds or ETFs that have a target date based on them. So if you opened one for a 1-year-old and you were expecting them to go to college when they were 18, it would invest as though they were 18 years away from needing to take out the money and then it would slowly move into bonds, which once again are quite safe but have very low interest rates. So therefore preserving your money rather than growing it. So you'll start with growing. Anyway, 529s are pretty great because they are tax-free on both sides. You get tax benefits when you put them in, and you get tax benefits when you pull them out. However, they are a bad savings investment vehicle if you are not looking to invest in education at some point in the next 15 to 20 years. And they can be okay if you're looking to invest in the short term. If you or a kid is going to school in the next 5 years, they can have some tax advantages to do, but the administration is a little more frustrating and challenging with them. That being said, if you've been thinking about it, it's not a bad time to do it. The markets are down. If you're investing for a long range, then it's going to be heavily in stocks, and that means you'll be able to buy things while they're on sale. So it isn't a bad investment vehicle. The other thing to know about 529s, though, is they're usually administered at the state level. There's a bunch of different options for them. And a lot of states will put incentives where will put money into it if you start saving in a 529. And it's usually not a ton of money. It'll be if you put in $50, we'll put in $50. And you can deduct it off your state taxes, or we'll just give you $50 or whatever. Those programs if they exist right now, I would not expect that to be a priority for state governments going forward in the future. And so I would generally recommend that if you have them and you feel like they might be sunsetting, to take advantage of them. But I would say that right now is not a time where a bunch of those new programs are going to be coming online, because state governments have much bigger problems to deal with, and they're going to have other places they're going to need to put their money, for example, into unemployment. So, and small business rescue or whatever. Anyway, should we have a donut now? Is it donut time? Let's have a donut before I start talking about more things. We have a lot of folks here. If you can see the chat, if you're not embedded and you're on iPad or if you swipe up, I think on iPhone, let me know where you're at, like in the world. You can be vague with it if you want. But yeah, I love to know where people are. All right, I'm going to try the raspberry fritter one first. This is the raspberry fritter. I didn't get any of the like fresh strawberry in it, so I'm really regretting not bringing a napkin in here. It's pretty good. These are like local raspberries in here because we live in a state that like has a ton of raspberries. That looks like a strawberry though. Maybe I keep calling this a raspberry fritter and it's actually a strawberry fritter. Okay, that piece was definitely a strawberry. All right, I'm gonna eat that Arnold Palmer. By the way, a napkin was brought to me, luckily. Otherwise, I'd be wiping it on my new suit, which would be very terrible. All right. Oh, Art of the Budget is here. Hi. Sarah said, what is your perception of the likelihood of UBI in the US after this? A Torontoan wants to know. No. I'm sorry. I think that I will also say once again, trained as an economist, not as a political scientist. I think UBI ends up being far more of a political question than an economics one when it comes down to implementation in the United States. I will say that cash transfers, which is what economists call just giving people cash rather than the way that we tend to deliver support for low-income people in the United States, which tends to be housing benefits, food stamp, or SNAP as it's called here, WIC. We tend to give benefits for specific things. Economists generally always favor what we call cash transfers. And we have one thing in the US that is the equivalent of a cash transfer usually, which is called the Earned Income Tax Credit, which I have talked about ad nauseum on the show. So if you watch the show, or if you listen to the show, you will have heard me talk about the Earned Income Tax Credit, because in the United States, it is the closest thing to Robin Hood that we could get. And it is the closest thing to a cash transfer for poor people that we have. And believe it or not, it was actually a conservative economist, Milton Friedman, who is like about as far from my economics training by what I am called, what's called a saltwater economist, which means that I was trained on the coasts, and we tend to be more liberal with economic policy. And then there is freshwater economists, and freshwater economists, including Milton Friedman, tend to be more conservative. So what Milton Friedman proposed was what was called essentially a negative tax credit. And he wanted to do negative income tax for low income people, and essentially said, like, if you work, we will give you just straight up cash transfers. And, you know, when this was, the Republicans, I shouldn't say Republicans, I should say conservatives, because that has changed over the years. But conservative economists generally kind of look down on the concept of having just giving poor people straight cash, because the fear is that then poor people will go spend it all on booze and prostitutes and gambling or whatever. Or as they would have said in Milton Friedman's time, spend it on the horses. And the... so what the earned income tax credit is essentially their best implementation of that, of this actual cash transfer and Milton Friedman's proposed negative income tax credit, which is if you work some number of hours and your income is low enough, which in the United States, it's somewhere between, I believe, $2,000 or $3,000 of earned income. So this can't be income from programs, or it has to be income from work, essentially. Labor has to be a factor in it. If you have that income up to around, I think it's phases out around $26,000 in the US, which is slightly above poverty level, you will get money. And it works the opposite of almost every other type of program that we have in the United States, which is that normally if you get something like a housing benefit or SNAP, you will get less and less money as you earn more until you essentially fall off a cliff. Like if you earn over a certain amount, you just won't get any of the benefits anymore. And you can end up with people in this valley where they essentially start earning more and they completely phase themselves out of the support, but now they're actually functionally more poor after that, right? Like you see this a lot with food stamps, where someone will be earning and then they earn just slightly more and they start getting zero food stamps, and the phase out just kind of pushes them off a cliff. So the other thing is that for a lot of people, the worry was that there would be less incentive to work. I mean, I don't believe that if you're low income, that means that you're lazy, but there are a lot of policies based on that idea. And what the earned income tax credit is it goes the opposite way, which is it says, if you work more and you earn more, we will give you more money. And so the earned income tax credit actually pays you at tax time, and it pays you even more if you have kids. And it can be really significant amount of money. For a lot of people, it can end up being close to like a quarter or a third of what they made the entire previous tax year. So it could be $5,000 to $7,000 we give back at tax time. And I say this all to say that that is a cash transfer to poor people. And it is the only type of tax refund that's just directly giving money to people rather than repaying you for overpayment of taxes. And it is literally taking money from rich people and giving it to poor people. And it is giving people cash and saying, you know how best to use it. And what I love about it is that it's non-controversial. Republicans like it as much as Democrats. It is one of those policies that seems to have effectively done what it aimed to do, which is give money to poor people so that they can spend it on things. And it does actually mostly improve people's lives, because it turns out giving them cash directly does improve people's lives. And I say this all to say it's probably the closest we will ever get to UBI in the United States. I will say that right now there is more political movement among Republicans at the moment of direct cash transfers. But Ashley says, I need to do my research on the earned income tax credit. I don't think I've ever qualified for it before. Ashley, if you have filed and you're relatively low income, you may have gotten it and not realized it. If you've gotten refunds before, you might not know that the earned income tax credit is in there because it just comes as part of your refund. I would also say if you don't have any dependents, you really do have to have a dependent to get it. If your income is your income has to be very low to get the earned income tax credit if you have no dependents. So a lot more of that money ends up going towards people that are low income and have kids. So I got it last year, and I don't have any dependents, but my adjusted gross income last year was like less than $7,000, thanks to some crafty and smart and totally legal tax strategies. And but anyway, my income had to be that low in order for me to get it. So yeah, that was a big part of that. Denise says, Who else is wondering if Anomaly is wearing houndstooth leggings versus turquoise suit pants versus tacky dacks? Oh, tacky dacks. I see. We're now using the Australian phrase here. I am, in fact, wearing the suit pants, but I actually think I'm going to return the suit pants because I tried to size up so they'd be more comfortable, and I think they're just, like, too big. I got a UK size 10, which is a US size 6, and I'm almost always a size 4, but I was like, oh, I don't want uncomfortable suit pants, but I think they're too big, so the tags are still on. But yes, definitely I wore this for video calls this week and wore leggings with it. Oh, lots of people like the suit. Thank you. I didn't see that because I was too busy waxing poetically about the earned income tax credit. I like how tacky dacks are now... Tacky decks are now a thing. I wanted to dress up for you all. That's why I'm not wearing leggings. I was also worried I was going to do something like climb on my chair and then you were going to have to see my less good. Okay. Are we excited for me to try this donut before I answer more financial questions? This one is the Arnold Palmer, and it has like black, like a tea base, and then it's named after the drink, and then it has these lemon candies on the top. It's like engulfing my mouth in oil. Oh, Ashley, I also don't know how old you are, but the earned income tax credit, if you don't have dependents, doesn't start until you're 25. So if you've only been working and getting income for a couple years, and you're just over the age of 25, you might not have gotten it before. So, Joseph Floyd says, with social distancing, you might grow into those pants staying at home. I'm determined to write off new clothes, how to write off new clothes when this ends. I know! So, I will say that, like, I do write off some clothes. The IRS is pretty specific about how you're not supposed to be able to write off clothes that, or are you just saying write off? Are you saying write off like write off on taxes? Or are you talking about write off like give up on them? Oh, I see what you mean by grow into those pants. I thought you meant like growing on me. I was going to talk about how to write off clothes on taxes if you're a business owner, but I don't think that's what people were talking about. You know, that's part of the reason I got the slightly bigger pants is that I was like, yeah, well, I'm not working out nearly as much right now, so I figured more comfortable, but it is definitely not that. Art of the Budget says, please be gentle with yourselves and your bodies, folks. Yes. Excellent advice. Being gentle with myself is not very easy right now, but I'm trying. Ashley says, I think once my age qualified me, I was being claimed as a dependent by my partner for being in school. Yes. Oh, also, if you're in school and you're working for the school, whether or not you're being claimed as a dependent, if you're working for the school, most often of the time, you are not actually getting Social Security taxes on your income. And I believe in that case, it does not qualify as earned income for complicated reasons. So Joseph says, write off on taxes. I'm going to need a whole new wardrobe. Yeah, well, okay. I'll tell you about my strategy for writing off clothes on taxes. 1, dress ridiculously and then appear on camera a lot. 2, give a lot of talks in outfits that reasonable people would not consider everyday clothing. So the IRS has this very like clear delineation where they essentially say you cannot write off clothing that you can't write off clothing that you say is for work, but you could presumably wear outside of work. And one of the cases in which we find this to be really frustrating is like, for example, I worked at a fitness studio and all of these instructors that worked at this high-end fitness studio got like pro deals on extremely expensive leggings. Like these would be like $150 leggings. They got at half price. yoga instructors, fitness instructors don't make great money. Like, they can if they're doing a lot of private training, but they don't tend to make extremely good money because it's usually a very part-time job. Quite a few people do it on top of other jobs. But if they're doing a lot of personal training, you can make quite good money as a fitness instructor. But anyway, so it's like a significant portion of their job, and they need to have these. Like, a lot of studios will essentially require a certain level of expectation of the niceness of your yoga pants and your little tops and everything like that. And the other thing is you actually do go through them a lot when you're wearing them, when you're sweating in them, when you're leading classes and you're leading a couple classes a day. Like, imagine if you went to the gym and sweated 2 to 3 hours a day, how much clothes and laundry you end up having to do. But because athleisure is a thing, essentially they say that wearing just $80 yoga pants, since you can do that out to brunch, they can't be tax write-offable, even if you're a personal trainer or a fitness instructor, and it's very justifiable. However, if it has like your logo on it of your business, so if you get like, you know, a fancy shirt, but then it's printed with the logo of the gym you work at or something like that, then they say that it's tax write-offable. However, costumes are tax write-offable for performers. So I make and wear a lot of David Bowie costumes because then that is write-offable. Another thing is you treat them not like clothing, but as like objects that you are reviewing. So if you work in media and you like review clothing, then you can essentially write it off as cost of goods sold rather than equipment. So yes, anyway. Yeah, I always think about this when it comes to like working outside. I think that's like one of the more frustrating things. Like, when I worked a job outside, I went through really expensive work pants and stuff, like relatively quickly, because they're exposed to all these harsh conditions. When you work on a farm and stuff like that, you go through clothes so often. And yeah, unfortunately, they just really don't let you write that off. Lawyers too, a lot of lawyers will try to write off their nice suits for court and stuff, and the IRS has a very explicit ruling, like, if you are a lawyer and you need fancy clothes and dry cleaning to show up at court, you can't write it off. So, I don't know. Ashley says my tea party outfit. Yeah, I did. I have like a gothic Lolita, like, skirt that I got that's covered in different breakfast foods because I was going to wear it to Breakfast on the Bridges, which is a thing I volunteer at. And I was planning on doing a YouTube video where I like gave myself a elegant gothic Lolita makeover with the fashions, because it's a weird world of the fashions. And I was like diving into all the economies of it and how people like get clothing, and the resale values are really interesting. So I plan on making that video. Right now is not the best time to be making a video about like clothes that you essentially dress up in and then like go out to wear. So, we'll see, but I will write that off as cost of goods sold if I, yeah. Anyway, that's my answer. Do we have more financial questions? Did I give a review of the Arnold Palmer one? I don't think I did. Do you remember if I reviewed this?
I don't remember.
Mm-hmm. Yep. The raspberry fritters, or the strawberry fritter, I really thought it was raspberry, but it clearly has strawberry pieces in it. So, strawberry fritter. This one's better, even though I was more excited about this one. But I love the candies on the top. I thought they were going to be like hard candies, but they're like kind of gummy. All right. Question. Oh, this is from the forums. Question that H asked today after we listened to your podcast. How long after the unemployment is paid could they possibly ask for it to be repaid if they think it was overpaid? And how do they determine that? Oh, so you asked this, and I'm going to actually answer it in an episode. But I I ended up deep, like I called some lawyers, some employment lawyers to get opinions on this, and ended up reading like a massive thing on overpayment of unemployment that was like a profile of every state. And the extremely simple answer is it depends on your state. I will say that based on like a review that I found of it, the general assertion was that if you get, so this is referring specifically to the idea that like freelancers qualify for unemployment now. However, figuring out what freelancers make ends up being a lot more complicated than if someone's just a W-2 employee and they have pay stubs. And that's actually one of the big holdups right now in every state, and why almost every state is completely behind in getting freelancers unemployment and has no idea what they're doing. So the big issue here is that there's two different types of overpayment that they consider. They either say it is fraud, which is that you like willfully deceived them in order to claim more benefits, or they will say that it is mistake. And mistake usually comes down to administrative mistakes on their behalf. It seems like mistake rarely has to do with, it seems like mistake rarely has to do with you. So, common forms of overpayment would be someone got piecemeal work for a week, like they went in and they worked one day. And the way unemployment works in the US is that every week you call in or go on their website if you can get on. This is how it works when it's supposed to be working. Right now it's a mess everywhere. You go in every week and you call and you say like, yes, I did look for work this week. This is what.
And wait for it to come back.
Yeah, you can find out when we went off. But anyway, the way you get unemployment in the US is that you claim each week. But unemployment is very strict in that, like, if you have any income in that week, you have to report it. And sometimes people will forget. They'll like get paid in cash for a job under the table from someone and they'll forget to report it. And each state has a different like length of discovery of when they could essentially find that out and then try to get you for overpayment. I did not see any state on the review of every state's policies as regards to overpayment. I didn't see any state where it was less than a year. So every state has at least a year, and some states essentially have no statute of limitations and forever seem able, if it is what they consider to be fraud, meaning that you deceived them about your income to claim more benefits in their eyes. Essentially, there is no limit on it. The other thing I will say is that the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Fund, which is that extra $600 a week, which is what most freelancers are going in to be able to claim, that amount is, I think, you shouldn't be that worried about it. It doesn't look like that is probably going to be in the case of getting heavily investigated. The other thing I'm going to say is that unemployment, I've talked to multiple people that work for unemployment on the phone in doing research for this episode and this article I wrote, and they're all very stressed. And essentially, I just don't think investigating fraud claims is going to be high on the list of priority for people that are making their best effort. That being said, we never know. I would also say that's how I feel. That's how me and everybody I know who works in the tax world feels about taxes right now. If you're behind on your taxes, you can really file anything that's your best effort. And the IRS is way too overwhelmed and understaffed to be doing anything that isn't audit priority at this point. So I would not make the assumption that, audits are happening. Does anybody have any questions about PPP loans? I'm doing a big episode on those soon, but are there other questions that we have in this backlog, Aaron? Sprocket Podcast asked, but for real, is it a good time to get paper married if one of us is facing possible layoff? Generally, getting married is worse for your finances, but there is one exception. In the US, getting married is good for health insurance, which ends up being the second highest expense for a lot of people in the United States. So it could be a good time to get paper married in the case of if one of you is likely to face layoff and the other one has good insurance through their job. It could make sense to get paper married for that reason. We have what's called the marriage penalty here, which is that essentially, if you get married, you have a lot lower upper income thresholds for a lot of things, tax credits, benefits. You know, this extra $1,200 everybody's getting is a good example. The married couple with no dependents, upper income threshold is actually like slightly lower than it is for a single person with no dependents, two single people with no dependents. And that's true with most tax things. Marriage, while the economic claim is what got us the right to marriage in the courts in the United States. Thank you, Windsor, for that. The economic benefits of marriage tend to have more to do with organization than actual, like, making your finances better. It makes it easier to get accounts. It makes it easier to have power of attorney for the other one. And it does make it easier to, visit each other in the hospital and all of these important things. It also can make it a lot easier if you are adopting kids or something to get second parent adoption, depending on the state. Some states still don't let gay couples have same-sex second parent adoption because they suck. So there's all these like intangible benefits of marriage, plus it's like an institution that people like and stuff. However, for health insurance, it can make sense. What I will say though, is if you are not legally married, then whoever gets laid off, only their income, which would be only their unemployment income, minus that extra $600 a week, would count towards their eligibility for something like Medicaid. So Medicaid is the low-income health insurance in states. Every state has it, but not every state has it expanded. 22 states don't have it expanded. In Oregon, we have what it's called the Oregon Health Plan is the version of it. If you do have an expanded benefit in states and you weren't making, whoever got laid off wasn't making amazing money before, their unemployment income may qualify for them for Medicaid, in which case having them on your health insurance isn't necessarily that much better, because in most states, Medicaid is relatively good insurance and has no or very extremely low, like $5 a month premiums, and copays are often $0, but might be $5 or $10. So even the most Cadillac insurance would usually not be that much better than Medicaid. But if you don't live in a state without Medicaid expansion, it's Apple Health for Washington State. I actually just in a recent episode was like, every state names them something cute. I think Oregon Health Plan is like the one time we didn't try to name it something cute. Anyway, if you're going to qualify for Medicaid, or if you're going to have like a low enough income that on the exchange you would qualify for a plan with a subsidy, then it can end up making a lot more sense for them to just do it that way. The other thing too is that, so if you do want to get your partner on your insurance and it isn't open enrollment at your workplace. So let's say your partner loses their job and you have good health insurance and it's not that much to add them to your health insurance at their job, at your job. The reason that you might want to get married, if that is the best option for health insurance, you've done your research on the other options, is that would actually trigger a change of life event, which would give you a special enrollment period, because getting married, getting divorced, having a kid, and in some cases moving states can be things that will trigger a special enrollment period, and that will allow you to enroll your partner outside of the open enrollment period, which otherwise you would not have the option of doing, if that makes sense. So, yeah.
one more question.
Oh, we have one more question, apparently. If massive amounts of people continue to need unemployment benefits, how long is it sustainable? Didn't we already answer this question? How long is it sustainable for the government to keep paying out? No, we did. We answered this question. Yeah, essentially it is sustainable as long as people keep buying bonds at the U.S. government bonds. But I don't know about politically sustainable. So, well, it's been about an hour, although we had like 2 minutes of technical difficulties there at the beginning. I'd love to just hear what people are going to do today before we go. And I will just sit here and eat donuts, and you can watch me in the most boring mukbang ever while you type out what you're going to do for the rest of the weekend. What are you going to do this weekend, Aaron?
Help you with your live stream.
You're going to do something else after this, right?
Going to join a Zoom birthday party.
Oh.
All birthday parties are Zoom now.
Aaron says he's going to join a Zoom birthday party after this. I'm going to a Zoom family meeting for my radio station, which is the meeting that we have for all of our volunteers and everything. And normally it's a big, like, fun party, but unfortunately it will not be this year. It's going to be a big, fun Zoom party. Amanda is going to knit, watch snow fall outside. You have snow? You have snow? And maybe some video games. Amanda, you don't live somewhere where it normally snows, right? Am I wrong? Art of the Budget says garden. Oh, nice. And Ashley is going to do a whole lot of knitting and is going to wage war on sugar ants. Kate is getting ready to fry tofu. I gave you a bunch of advice on frying tofu, right? On the forums. Was that you? Yeah, because I had, like, excessive things. We had someone steal tofu from us today. So, Brackenjoy on the forums brought over, they added us to their Costco order, and then they went out of their way to drop off what was, like, 6 blocks of tofu and chili powder, 2 things that we needed. And it was down in the lobby of my apartment building for 15 minutes, partially because I was, like, waiting to pick it up, because I was like, oh, it'll kill the germs or whatever. And someone stole it. And I'm still really bummed about that and very sad. So, well, Kate, apparently it wasn't Kate that I gave the frying tofu tips to, but it was Discord. Okay, yeah, I, like, aggressively gave a bunch of frying tofu tips, but yes, I consider myself a tofu preparation expert because I used to be a vegan chef at a place where I cooked a lot of tofu, so. Amanda says Colorado does what it wants. Oh. Denise says it's 60F today and we will get a couple inches of snow tomorrow. 30 days of biking, rides on both. I appreciate your commitment. I am not participating in 30 days of biking because I don't have anywhere to go, and I apparently don't ride bikes without somewhere to go. And a couple years ago, I did the coffee Nuring challenge. If you know what randonuring is, it's like where people race against themselves, essentially, and they do really long rides, and it's not necessarily about being fast. It's like about going long distances. And the coffee Nuring challenge... Oh, and often the time points, rather than them being, like, closed races for randoneering, often, like, the way you do your time points is you'll go buy something in, like, a certain gas station, and you get the receipt, and the receipt will be your time point. So there was this, like, thing called coffee Nuring, where it was you ride every day in June, but you ride to a different place to get coffee every day. And I did it a couple years ago, and it was super fun. I didn't end up doing every single day of the month because it was just too much money spent on coffee. But people would do things, they'd do ridiculous things, like they'd get up really early in the morning before work, and they'd ride like 45 miles to go get coffee, like in the gorge at the coffee shop, in the like gift shop in the Columbia River Gorge, which is a gorgeous place. And that would be their like coffee Nuring picture. Denise is also trying to fight ants. So apparently, apparently that is the thing. Yeah, Denise said coffee-nooring is way more fun than rando rides. I love that people love randoneering. I had an ex who's like did the PBP Paris-Brest Paris, which is like the biggest, most impressive randoneering ride. You have to like do all these other rides to qualify for it. And I appreciate that the community is like very cool and very specific, but it is not my thing. I like to ride with a point. Also, like often they'll do these rides where they have to just keep riding for 24 hours and they'll like take a nap by like hanging onto a tree and falling asleep. Yeah. We don't have any ants, but we live on the 3rd floor of an apartment building, so I think the ants just can't crawl all the way up. Probably getting in a few more hours of work. Oh, special guest is arriving. I wondered what was... Yes, special guest. Oh, you are a very sleepy special guest. Oh. Yes, apparently everyone's gonna knit and fight ants this weekend. Oh. Oh, you have very smelly breath. Oh, yes, you do. Do you want to look at the camera or do you just want to look at me? No interest in the camera. None at all. Hey, look. Oh, you're so sleepy. You're so sleepy. You're very sleepy, kitty. There we go. Yes. This is Dora. She's our chief box inspector. But she's on her union break right now, which is, her union break is, several hours long, sometimes weeks long. Oh, I have a lap kitten. I think we have a behind the scenes cam for this purpose. This is Dora. Her website is indiewebcat.com. Oh, I'm glad I vacuumed my rug before this so that I know you're all paying attention to the kitty. Denise says, I do like long rides. I've done a few 200K, but the whimsy factor wins me over always. Yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of long bike touring, but I'm just not into like I don't like the biking to be the objective. I like to go somewhere. So I used to lead a lot of bike camping trips for a group that doesn't exist anymore called Cycle Wild. But we led bike camping in the Portland Ride Shed, which was a thing we made up, which is how far a day's bike ride is from Portland. But we would use like the trains to get us further out. Yes, Dora does have a website. Miss Indie Webcat has a website. Yes, I'm really glad I wore pants for the live stream now that she's very happy. Although, am I going to be able to return these pants for another size now that I have gotten cat hair all over them? Yes, Dora had a website before she officially existed. Part of the selling Aaron on getting a cat, because Dora is technically his cat, it's not my cat, was the idea that she can be used as a demonstration project for indie web technology, which is something that Aaron works on. So her website is like a live feed. It even has a quantified kitty section where her weight gets posted and stuff, although I think it's been a while since it's been updated. And it posts all her food and also posts lots of pictures of her. And yes, she is very smug. Can I have a local tailor take in the waistband? I mean, I probably could. I could also take in the waistband. But the returns are free. So I probably will return it. It's new. I almost never like buy new stuff, but it was very, very on sale from ASOS, so I bought it new. It's also petite, so I don't have to tailor the pants for length. And I'm like, I think I'm offended if I have to tailor the waistband when I normally do the pants. Yeah, I have to tailor everything I buy pretty much. Unless it's vintage, because I'm the size of the average woman in the 1940s, but not in the 2020s. So I'm just like 100 years behind as far as size. It's fine. Oh, look at Miss Dora's website. Yes. All right. I feel like we've covered a lot today. Thank you all for spending some time with me and talking about the economy. Did everybody get their financial questions answered? I have more episodes coming out soon. But man, I really have a kitten. I have quite the kitten ball. I might just have to, look at this. She's very pleased with herself. She's very tired. Makes my posture worse when I have a cat on my lap. Yeah, thank you for coming. And have a good weekend. Enjoy your knitting. And may you defeat the ants from your kitchens. And enjoy the snow/60-degree weather, which seems to occur in both the same places. And everybody wash your hands and stay hydrated. And I will see you next time. Bye, y'all.